Imagine this. The United States, a global power, is teetering on the edge of a major political crisis. A showdown over Greenland could reshape NATO, divide international alliances, and expose vulnerabilities that could shake the very foundations of global power. But here's the kicker. As some lawmakers rush to defend Greenland, others are pushing for a much more dangerous path. One that could change everything you thought you knew about international security. What happens when the world's most powerful nation starts losing its grip on diplomacy? And what does that mean for you? Stick around, you won't believe how this story unfolds. Now let's step back for a second. What's really happening here? It's not just about Greenland. It's about the United States flexing its muscles in a way that could fracture some of its oldest alliances. Republican and Democratic senators alike have raised the stakes, sending a strong bipartisan delegation to Greenland. Their mission? To send a message loud and clear to both Greenland and Denmark. We do not stand by Donald Trump's threats. This isn't just a clash over a piece of land. This is about a fundamental question. How far will the U.S. go to assert its dominance, and at what cost? Is this about national security, or is it about something more dangerous, something that could unravel decades of diplomatic ties? Stay with me, because we're about to dive into why this conflict matters way beyond the surface. Here's where it gets even more intense. The situation isn't just an isolated incident. It's a battle of wills on the global stage. Republican senators like Lisa Murkowski and Tom Tillis, alongside Democrats like Jeanne Shaheen and Chris Coons, have come together to make one thing clear. Donald Trump's threats to Greenland and NATO are unacceptable. These senators aren't just talking, they're taking action. And they're making sure that if the president moves forward with this, they'll stop him. In fact, one of the most direct warnings came from Senator Shaheen. She boldly stated that any move by the U.S. to take Greenland by force would threaten NATO as we know it. But here's the twist. Notice what's missing here. Despite these strong statements, the threat isn't just about military action. It's about the trust that's at stake. Trust between the U.S., its allies, and the international community. And once that trust is broken, it's hard to fix. Now let's look at how this is escalating. What started as a diplomatic disagreement has turned into a full-blown international crisis. Think about this for a moment. Back in 2019, Russia's intelligence services tried to spark discord in NATO by spreading rumors about the U.S. wanting to seize Greenland. The aim was simple: create division within NATO and weaken the alliance. But here's the unsettling part. Russia didn't need to work behind the scenes anymore. The United States, under its own leadership, is doing the exact same thing, only out in the open. The world watches as the U.S. seems to care more about Greenland's land and resources than the very alliances that have kept the peace for decades. And now these escalating threats are starting to feel like normal behavior, but they shouldn't be. This isn't just about Greenland anymore. It's about how far the U.S. will go to impose its will on the world and at what cost to the unity of NATO. But the situation just keeps getting worse. Senator Shaheen wasn't done. She hammered home the point that any attempt to take Greenland by force isn't just reckless, it's downright counterproductive. She pointed out that the U.S. already has a long-standing relationship with Greenland built on partnership and mutual respect. This isn't about military takeovers, it's about collaboration. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about Greenland now anymore. The entire situation is a Waltz gift to America's adversaries. By pushing this aggressive narrative, the U.S. is playing directly into the hands of Russia and China. As Shaheen explained, Vladimir Putin would love nothing more than for NATO to fracture over Greenland. It's a win for Russia. A distraction from Ukraine, a distraction from everything NATO should be focusing on. Now think about it. The real danger is what happens if this continues. If these moves go unchecked, it doesn't just hurt Greenland or NATO. It could unravel everything that's been built over the past century. Things are moving fast. First, you have a bipartisan delegation of U.S. senators stepping into Greenland to make a bold statement against Trump's threats. Second, we've got European nations, including Denmark and Greenland, sending their own signals to protect their sovereignty from U.S. aggression. And just when it seemed like things couldn't heat up anymore, third, There's a growing global reaction. Other NATO allies are preparing to bolster their forces in Greenland to safeguard against a potential invasion. But here's the terrifying part. What happens if this continues? This isn't just a diplomatic issue anymore. This is a race against time. Each side is digging in deeper, the rhetoric is escalating, and the stakes are rising. The world watches, holding its breath, knowing that this could be the start of something far larger than a disagreement over one piece of land. Now, let's shift gears and look at what this really means for the people involved. Greenland's citizens, for instance, are living in fear. Imagine waking up every day not knowing if your country is about to be invaded by the very nation that's supposed to be your ally. Imagine the anxiety of parents putting their children to bed, wondering if they'll wake up to an emergency alert or military presence in the streets. This is real human fear. And here's where it gets personal. What if this could happen to you? Could your country become the next pawn in a geopolitical game? The terrifying reality is that the more these tensions rise, the closer we get to the possibility of real conflict. And it's ordinary people who will feel the brunt of it. If this feels familiar, say so in the comments. How would you react if you were in their shoes? But let's take a step back. This isn't just about a few senators making bold statements or foreign nations preparing for battle. It's about systems. The global systems that enable this kind of aggression to happen in the first place. The incentives are all wrong. The spectacle of power plays out in the form of threats, alliances, and leverage. But at the core of it, fear is the currency being traded, fear of losing influence, fear of breaking alliances, and fear of being left vulnerable. But here's the unsettling insight. This system is broken. It's one thing for nations to compete for resources and power, but it's another when that competition spills over into the very relationships that have kept the world from chaos. And right now, fear is driving decisions that could have irreversible consequences. When systems like NATO and long-standing alliances are reduced to mere bargaining chips, the risk isn't just a political failure, it's a global collapse in trust. Now let's talk about what happens next. Two possible futures are forming, and neither is easy to predict. On one side, we could see a de-escalation where diplomatic efforts pull the U.S. back from the brink and alliances are patched up before the damage becomes permanent. The threat of military intervention fades and Greenland remains secure with NATO's unity intact. But then there's the other side. A future where tensions continue to rise, alliances fracture, and what started as a political disagreement over Greenland turns into a geopolitical crisis that redraws the map of international power. If that happens, the ripple effects now will be felt for generations, not just in the Arctic, but across the globe. So what's the real answer here? Both paths are still in play. The momentum is building, and one wrong move could change everything. Here's the truth. What happens next could change everything you thought you knew about the balance of global power. As we teeter on the edge of a new era, the stakes are higher than ever. But remember, the way this story ends isn't written yet. The next moves will be crucial. And if this trajectory continues, we could be facing a world where no alliance is safe. And the foundations of international diplomacy are forever altered. But there's more to uncover. Stay tuned, because this isn't the last time we'll be talking about this. If you want to dive deeper into these explosive topics, hit that subscribe button and make sure you're plugged into the conversation. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.